Editor Justin here. Basically, kind of had an issue that, I didn't think was a problem until watching the video as I'm editing. It's not the greatest sounding audio, but I'm not going back out there and redoing it all. So, sorry, but it just is what it is. So, all I ask is just have a little bit of patience as you're watching and listening. There's going to be a ton of wind out there, I guess, or the sound of the wind. So there's going to be moments where you probably won't hear me too well, but it is what it is. You can kind of hear me for most part on a lot of stuff. I just don't got the money for a mic right now. I like a good mic to actually use for my camera, but it is what it is. It's going to be like that for a little bit. But yeah. Let's get into it, and hopefully can actually hear the whole thing.
What's up, everyone? My name is Justin, aka T1 Disc Golf, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to be doing something a little different. I will have to say, as a little disclaimer, that popping sound and all that is just the skeet range that's just not too far off. Anyway, today is kind of a special day because we're going to start off a new series, and what I'm going to be calling it is Rerouted Flight. Basically, the premise of the series is to show off the courses and stuff like that, not just in Omaha, but any courses that I go out and play, whether I go out of town or anything like that. But I'm starting in kind of just my area, the courses I'm familiar with, and then kind of work my way out. The basic idea, like I said, is just to show off the courses and show you at least what Omaha has, and then other cities eventually get to them. The cool little thing I'm going to be doing as well with this is basically I am going to be doing kind of like an overall score thing. So it's kind of one of those where it'd be really interesting to see. So each course, I'm going to be playing kind of a specific layout. So today, I'm actually going to be doing shorts. So I'll take the score of this round, and then when I come back to do the longs at this course, I'll add up with that. Once I finish this course, I'm going to take the overall score and kind of just follow it up with whatever score I get at the next course. So realistically, I could be hundreds of strokes over par, or I could be hundreds of strokes under par. It really depends on just how it is. I'm not a pro. I'm just a MA2 kind of intermediate player when it comes to actually throwing and stuff like that. But you never know with the courses whether it be difficult or easy. Just to see what, hopefully I'm a good median for people to see and gauge how the courses play, and kind of just the skill level kind of helps a little bit reach both sides of the audience. But we'll see, we'll get into it, and as I go along, the better I get, hopefully. There could be bad rounds, there could be good rounds, but I'm only going to do one attempt at each layout as I progress through each course. So yeah, that's basically the extent of the idea of the series. So I hope you enjoy it and you get to experience and see what all Omaha has to offer and all the other courses that I go along on my journey. So basically, the first round I have here is going to be at Seymour Smith. It's kind of an important course for me because basically this was the first course that I've played and kind of got into disc golf. And this was one time way back in middle school or junior high era of time. Basically, this is where I started, and then kind of took a little bit of a break, and then ended up playing again later on after I graduated high school and stuff like that, and then I got kind of serious into it once COVID hit. Basically, a couple of things to know about the course. It's at a public park, and there's, as you can hear, the skeet range kind of up ahead of me. It's also got a full baseball complex kind of area. There's actually as well like a accessible like softball, baseball slash complex on the other side of kind of like the park that where I'm at. There's just like a snowbox derby track. There's all kinds of different areas on this court, like park where the course is at. So it's really cool just to see what all the park has to offer outside of just disc golf. So, but obviously we're only focusing on disc golf part. So the kind of few basic things about this course, it's an 18-hole course, and there's longs and the shorts. Not every hole has a long pad, but you know, there's a main pad, which is typically the shorts for this course, and then there's usually multiple pin placements for the baskets. However, there's only one basket per hole, and it gets pretty regularly like switched up in, you know, different spots and stuff like that. As I go along, I'm going to try to at least point out the different spots of where the baskets could be and where it's at currently. So if you do end up coming over here to, you know, try out the course or whatever, just know the basket's not going to be in the same spot roughly about like every few weeks or so, depending on who comes out and changes it and stuff like that in certain events. So yeah, that's kind of the heads up for it. I'll go ahead and just get set up for hole one. Alright, hole one is 296 feet according to T-Sign. On UDisc, I think it's a different number. A lot of these distances on this course, I think, are kind of slightly off in certain ways, but I don't really pay attention too much to that. But at least having the idea of kind of the rough range is nice. Basically, there's a few different positions. I'm going to point it out for you. So the basket is like over here. There's also like a pin position over here, and then one just in this little open area before the trees, and then there's a few that are kind of tucked in the tree, gripping at trees that are over there. And nothing super crazy. It's not this crazy big course, so I'm gonna take my slingshot. It's kind of beat in. It's an old white Oasis one, and I'm gonna throw a forehand. Hopefully more air shot than it is skip, but we'll see. The last few times I've kind of had a nose down issue when it comes to throwing forehands the last couple weeks, so we'll see. I think that was just a little bit short, probably about like 15-20 feet, but that was exactly how I wanted to throw that. Ended up a little bit closer, more like 10 to 15, but see if I could get that bird. Just a tad bit high, but overall that was pretty straight at it. I'll take that. The next tee pad would be right there, kind of in the little bit of trees right there, and then the long pad is actually just to the right of the basket where it's currently at. All right, hole two is a 215 shot according to the T sign. Basically, we're kind of that like bush and then that like claw tree. It's right behind the claw tree. Currently, there's a pin position on the hill, and then there's also another position on the hill towards the wall of trees that's on the right side. And then there's also one kind of in the clearing to the right as well. But right now, I think I'm gonna do kind of just a waymaker, do a backhand hyzer to it, see if we can get there. I didn't really give it too much hyzer. I kind of just threw it flat and didn't get the nose up, so I guess we'll just approach it. I'm gonna try to give it a half bid, see if I can pick a long clip. Right in front of it. Good far. Still one down. Off to the left of hole 2 is hole 3. Basically, you're going to throw over the kind of ravine area, and there's like a couple different spots within the trees, just inside the wall trees. There's one that's like straight ahead. Right now it's off to the right. So there's those two pin positions, and then there's a shorter one. There's actually like a stump in the middle of the clearing just past the ravine. That's like a really short dinker one, but right now, like I said, it's in the right position within the trees. I'm gonna throw my shepherd forehand at it, and hopefully I can make it. Bit of an early release, but it'll be all right. It's in the opening. I'll just pitch up for a 3. As you can tell, the wind's kind of messing with the flights and stuff like that. I think I'm also just a little bit on an off day, so it's not super great, but it's all right. I haven't really played within a week or so due to personal matters, but I'm gonna try to give this a run because it actually ended up a little bit closer than I thought. I thought it was more like in the open area, but that's all right. That'll be all right. Save the par on that one. Saved it. Now going to hole 4. The short pad's to the left of the basket. I'm trying to think the face the wrong way. And then kind of as you're coming around the ravine, the long pad's actually like you'll come across it first before you actually get to the basket of hole 3. Hole 4 is a little bit tricky one, so you gotta pay attention on it. All right, hole 4 is kind of a doozy one. It says 338. It's going to be up the hill, and there's like a row of like spruce trees, pine trees. I could never remember which is which for some reason. Despite the one summer I did kind of arborist things, but basically you're going to try to go through all these woods, and then you're going to upshot into the basket that's over by the spruces on the other end. It's par 4 on U-disc right now. A lot of these C signs will say par 3, but U-disc says par 4 on this, so not entirely sure par 4, but I'm going to play it as a par 4. because that seems to make a little bit more sense for me. But there's people who have gotten there and got the 2. There's a couple different positions. There's one that's in the clearing kind of by the stump, and then there's one in the corner by the intersection of the road. There's the one we're going to be playing to, and then there's a new one that's like shorter in the grouping of trees just past this wall of trees, essentially. I'm going to do a backhand, and I'm going to kind of try to do a little bit of a turnover and hope it kind of just skips up the hill a little bit for a decent spot. And you'll be able to see the basket a little bit better once you're up there. There we go. That's all right. Hit the last tree on the way out, but that's fine. I'll take that for a first shot. Okay, so we can kind of see the basket kind of if you go up this tunnel right here. It's going to be a little hard to see just because of the color of the basket and just what's behind it. But that's the tunnel I'm going to be trying to go for. There is like a bigger hyzer gap, but I think it'd be better if I just went through the tunnel with it forehand. I'm going to throw a OG Enoch, kind of one of the first runs of it. And hopefully it's just straight enough to go into it. Hopefully I don't actually crash into the middle of a tree. Hopefully. Not my greatest shot, but that's all right. I'm gonna have to pitch up and then putt it out. Putting's kind of saving me right now, but kind of sucks. I feel like I could have done that better, but whatever. For those who are wondering, you go from wherever the basket is on hole 4, you're gonna go down this way, kind of go around the ravine, and then the long basket is kind of by this pole, but I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it from over here, but you're gonna follow this and go up the hill to 5. You're gonna walk past hole 7, which is kind of over here. Sorry for the little bit of a wobble, but I don't have a gimbal to help me with that. But like I said, you're just gonna follow this path right here, walking past the long for both 5 and 7. And where that trash can is and trees right there is the short pad for hole 5. Hole 5 here, there's a couple different positions. Right now it's currently in the right position, kind of just in line with those 2 stumps. A lot of these trees you're going to find out a lot of stumps, or a lot of trees were cut to stumps. Stumps are more for, I guess, obstacles so that way the course isn't completely just bare. But we lost a lot of ash trees here in Nebraska and a lot of other places due to the emerald ash borer a few years ago. So right now they're working on planting trees and stuff like that. It's a little bit tough out here because it's a pretty popular course and a lot of people are going to be going through it. And also the weather within the last couple of years hasn't been the greatest for kind of newborn trees for the most part, in my opinion. But yeah, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a backhand mid-range and try to get it straight down there, maybe with like a little bit of a hyzer. I'm going to be playing kind of like the couple trees that are on hole 6, so see what happens. I'm going to take my gyro. dink. Wind kind of just pushed it down on me. It's more of like a tailwind-ish, and I thought it would carry more, but I guess not. I felt like I threw that perfect, but just the unfortunate wind drop. That's all. Kind of unfortunate landing. I'm like between the baby tree and the stake post holding up, so but it's an easy pitch up 3. I'm not gonna make it that crazy, especially with the drop off behind it. It kind of sucks because over the past few years the erosion's kind of been bad, so it's like really weathering away it, but we'll see what happens. Easy 3. On to hole 6. Hole 6, it says 237 up the hill, so kind of where the branches are kind of hanging off is the basket's underneath it, just barely past the tree, just past the crest of the hill. But there's a couple different positions. There's one that's in the trees, and then there's like a couple that are a little bit further out on like the plateau part of the hill. So I'm gonna take my Oasis slingshot and just kind of do a little forehand chip with it. Might be a little much of a speed for it, but I usually do this just to fight the wind and kind of cut harder. So see what happens. Kind of rolled my wrist a little bit, so it flipped on me, but that's all right. I'll give it a long run. Give it a little bit of a run, but I'm gonna hope not to go too far and roll down the hill again. Usually my miss is I kind of loft it too much, and then the wind just kind of takes over. So it's not a far putt, but hopefully I can make it. Just threes today. So, hole 7, currently in the 308. Okay, 308 position according to the T-pad sign. But basically, you just want to throw kind of a backhand hyzer or a forehand if you really want to go over this stuff. But it's best for a backhand just to get a little bit wide and then just skip over. I'm gonna try to do that with my Diamond Glow slingshot. So yeah, there's a couple other positions, one in the road trees right there, and then there's a couple a little bit further back that are kind of more straight out, and it tends to turn to a longer 3 or a par 4, the farthest position. So yeah, let's see what happens. A little early. I didn't really like drive forward too much as I wanted to, but that'll be all right. It's a 3. Got a circle 2 look, but I'm gonna try to give it a run for kind of a long bird, and then yeah. Let's go. Hole 8 is off to the left of the basket. Hole 8 is kind of relatively easy. throw a forehand at it with my Rapture. It's going to be a little hard to see on the camera, but I'm going to go along the stumps that kind of cut over. There's a few other spots. One that's in the stumps. And then there's one or two behind the trees that are growing up there. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Didn't quite get over. Kind of warm burnered it, but it's kind of off to the right now. So easy 3, but gonna give it a long bid for 2. All right, let's go save a bird. Save the bar. This one's kind of in a weird spot. It's off to the left. Most of the pin positions are going to be more towards kind of the right. There's like a kind of a bigger clearing area, and it kind of goes into in the little midst of the few trees that are here. Those are the main positions. This one's kind of the shorty off to the left. I prefer forehand, but I think today, just the way the wind and stuff is, I'm probably just going to go backhand slight turnover with my gyro and see what happens. It says 252 on the T sign, but like I said, I don't know if the distance seems right. But yeah, let's see what happens. Made the gap, kind of just a straight beeline to the hill on that stump, but easy 3. I'm gonna try to give it a little bit of a bid for a birdie, but we'll see. Let's see if we can get it. Oh, baby. Aww. Just that much. Needed to be higher. Alright, on to hole 10. Alright, about halfway through the course. Front 9 ended up 2 down so far. I'm gonna try to do roughly the same or a little bit better. I'm not like fully feeling it today, but doing pretty good for at least saving my bars and hit butts I need to hit. Hole 10 is basically straight, but it's over the crest of the hill. There's like a little area right before all the bushes and trees that are back there. Kind of roughly about like 310-ish in my opinion. I could be wrong on that one, but roughly that. Sometimes there's a pin position on the hill, and then there's 1 or 2 along the bush line. But today it's just over the hill in that little area before the bushes. So I'm gonna take my Diamond Glow slingshot and see if I could just kind of backhand glide it there. That's fine. It's on the hill, on the backside slope, but that's fine. I'll have like a little downhill putt right at it. It'll probably be about 60 feet at the most. I'm thinking more like 45. Could be a little bit longer. How also want to give it more of a dip than an actual run. I don't want to go too far. Just a bit before it. Okay, so hole 11, there's a few different pin positions. It's kind of a blind tee shot, so I'm going to show it from here. Currently, it's over by that tree. There is also a pin position kind of in this opening, roughly about right there. Then there's also one that'll be in these trees right here. The actual tee pad go up the road. It's actually right there. And then the long one is off to the right. But I'll be playing from the left one that's closer to the road. So yeah, it's a par 3. A little bit blind, like I said. You just gotta trust it over the road and then kind of hyzer it back in with the backhand, or do some weird forehand flex. More of a heavy left to right wind. I'm gonna take my purple slingshot, a little bit more stable than my other ones, and I'm gonna kind of hang it over the road and kind of get it pushed back. It should, but I don't know if this one's gonna flip it over or not. Hopefully not. I got scared to kind of just warm burnered it down the hill. It's not a great spot. I want to push more on the road and I got scared. It just hyzered it completely to the opening. It is threeable, but it just kind of sucks. Like I said, it kind of sucks because I can't really give it a run, so I'm going to lay out. Typically, I'll try to aim at the tree and then right before it, kind of land before it so that way I can get a decent putt at it. But yeah, typically you just want to go out and then like where the signposts are to the right, hyzer in, and then get a good skip to the basket. Oh, well, maybe not. Kind of yanked it a little bit, but it's fine. It went around the tree and just underneath the pole, so we'll take it. On the hole 12. All right, on hole 12, it's kind of the last hole of my Bermuda Triangle of this course. I kind of struggle with 10, 11, 12 for some reason. Don't know why I've always had that struggle, but if I can get par here, it's a long par 3, it's 384. If I can get this, I'll be happy with what I got. Basically, some people throw rollers. It's straight ahead, kind of in between the short position where the leaning stump is off to the left, and then the long position, which is more of a par 4. Like another maybe, I'd say 70 feet past where it's currently at. But basically, I'm going to take my Damago slingshot again and just kind of do a little bit of a backhand turnover flex, kind of, if I can. Try to avoid the ravine ditch here. It sucks to be in, and it's not a fun pitch out to get out. So if you can avoid that at all costs, that's great. I don't know. The forehand is also very tempting for me, but usually the issue is the wind's never really good for a forehand on this hole, especially right now in this point of the year. So, and plus I need to work on my backhand, so I'm going to do a backhand. And usually I can get right before the first tree on the right side, so let's see what happens. Didn't get the turnover, but that's fine. It's still a good spot to at least get a good approach. Most people usually get to about that tree that's a little bit ahead of me. So yeah, we'll see what we got once we get up there. A little bit of approach, but I'm gonna take my Samson and just kind of back in, hyzer spike it to at least try to land close. Make sure I don't go in the ditch. I'll take a few steps. Oh. That's not good. We'll see what I got, but that wasn't a good upshot. I definitely pulled it and just never gave it a chance to get back over. I was worried about going around the branch than actually getting it there. So we'll see what happens. I actually ended up with a good approach shot, but unfortunately it's for bogey once I tap this in. Okay, kind of jinxed myself with that one. Getting the bogey on holes I said I didn't really want to get a bogey on, but anyway, you go past the basket here like this, and you'll see the T sign kind of underneath the tree over here. Just past it, where all the stumps are, that's hole 13. So if you're ever confused, that's the way to go at it. Hole 13 is 221 downhill, and it kind of slopes towards the ditch. So you want to be really careful on not to flip over your disc or skip too hard. There's a forehand line that I'm going to do where you go take a wide and then skip down the hill. Preferably, there is a bush that's like before it that you kind of want to try to go around. But otherwise, there's like a path where you're kind of going through this stuff in particular, and then kind of just like hyzer in to the little pole that the basket's in right next to the tree. So let's see what happens. Like I said, it really slopes off hard here. Unfortunately, my tee shot kind of went off a little bit, and I'm somewhere down there. I'm going to play from a relatively safe spot down there, and then try to approach up. Also, make sure you have one of these. It helps a lot. Ended up in a little bit better spot. I don't know if the camera really caught it, but it does suck going in there. I threw an approach shot, so you'll about see me tap out where that landed. Then 14 is just right there. Alright, hole 14 says 217 on the T sign. Not really entirely sure if that's really correct, to be honest with you. But straight up the hill, it feels about like 200-ish, but probably plays more like 217 like the T sign says because of the uphill. There's usually a couple spots on the hill where the basket usually is. Right now it's in the short, and then there's a long one that's just to the left of the lone tree that's up on top of the hill, and to the right of like all the bushes and stuff that's just past the crest. So I usually throw my white slingshot and just kind of hyzer forehand over the stumps, crash it into the basket. I've hit this basket so many times off the top cage and off the side. I'm hoping I can try to cash it today, but I don't know if this one's going to let me do it. There's also a backhand line around the right side of this tree, but I'll stick with the forehand because I feel more comfortable with that. That's fine. I didn't quite get up there. It was a little short, but the wind was kind of really pushing it back. But overall, I was pretty happy with that shot. So I marked it a lot more than I thought it was, but I really like it, so it's going to be easy tap. Hole 15 is just like up the hill and to the right. If you go walking straight past the lone tree off to the right. So hole 15, the tee pad is about like maybe 50-ish feet behind the camera right now, but there's a few different pin positions. It is kind of a blind shot, but you can kind of see it. But I'm gonna at least show where the pin positions would be before I go back to the tee pad and throw. So basically you have the one that's kind of just right there next to the tree. It's before the tree, but there's another one that'd be like to the right of the tree, between that and then there's that bush that's like right there. There's also another pin position like over here to the left. Other than that, those are kind of the main three ones that I've seen it in. But today it looks like it's in the short straight ahead, so see how it looks on the tee pad. Like I said, you cannot really see too much from the angle of the tee pad unless you're at the front of the tee pad up there. But basically I'm just going to take my arc and then kind of just power down with a forehand. You're kind of like in between the two stumps, more so towards the left one. And then just kind of hyzer back into the basket. You don't want to power it too hard because the ravine and ditch is behind it. But at least where it's at right now, there's a little bit of wiggle room between the basket and the ditch. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to try not to air it too high and let the wind take it. It could literally end up anywhere if that's the case. It was almost perfect, just kind of skipped past it and got on edge and kind of rolled around the tree, the main tree that's like next to it. So you'll see that putt once we get down there. It's not a horrible putt, it's just slightly inconvenient because it's right next to the tree. I released a little low. But I'll take the par. All right, once you're done with that, you're actually, oops, wrong way. Gonna actually walk over to that bridge right there. You're basically gonna cross it and then head this way to the corner, and the next tee pad is right there. You'll see it once you cross the bridge. All right, as we get to the closing stretch of the course, at least the final part of the course, it's going to be a little bit more of like kind of a couple muskets. There's one, the next one's not really a musket in my opinion, just because it's kind of like an awkward spot for the tee pad, but I'll get to that next hole. But anyway, once you get to 16 here, it's a straight shot. All these pin positions for this hole is going to be straight. There's one that's before this big tree that you see. The second one is past that, and there's a stump just past that big tree, and it's just to the right of it. There's also a longer pin position. The whole thing's a par 3. Right now, currently it's in the 299 position, which feels about right, but I don't know, it feels a little bit off as well. Mainly because I think I'm probably just off a little bit in my head of just how things are going. But I'm gonna take a forehand and I'm gonna go up the left side and kind of swing in and skip to the basket. A lot of people like to take a backhand between the trees, and I've seen it aced a few times that way, but I don't personally feel comfortable doing that. I feel like I'm just gonna hit a branch and then get knocked down, which usually happens a lot. The wind right now is kind of like a tail right to left a little bit, so we'll see what happens, but I'm gonna try to skip it. I'll take it. Usually I try to go after, just barely past the stump that's behind that tree, but I went before it and I still ended up in circle. So it should be a relatively easy birdie putt, but we'll see once we get up there. Like I said, I'm in circle 1. Not quite bullseye, but it should be an easy birdie putt. That's the stump I was talking about at the tee pad. Yeah, let's see if I can ring it up. There we go. Finally getting back at it. Tee pad for 17. Usually at this point it's pretty self-explanatory where to go, but 17 is just kind of that way. And you'll see the bench and the tee sign for it. This one's kind of a weird one. I'm not a huge fan of where it's currently at. I think it's not a great pin position for where the following tee pad is, which you can kind of see. That's the 18 tee pad for sure. With the basket. If you look on the other side of the tree, this looking tree is right by the ditch or ravine. It's where the basket's at, which honestly is a fun hole if you take away 18's tee pad. Not have to worry about that safety concern in my opinion, but typically it's pretty straight for like the short position and then kind of the medium position is. Medium position's in the open by the ravine, straight ahead along with those road trees. So I am gonna take my diamond glow slingshot and kind of weave it in there, but we'll see what happens. I kind of rolled my wrist when I threw that forehand. It's also a little bit flippier of a disc, so I didn't really calculate it too well. But that's more my safety concern when it comes to that. As you can see, it kind of hit the dirt and bounced back, luckily, but that's just my theory. So I didn't quite fully make it there, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with getting a 3 on this particular pin position. Like I said, the tee pad's just like maybe 40 feet that way for me. So I'm gonna just lay up for a 3, kind of just move on to 18. I can tell whether it's just gonna float on it or not. Okay, so hole 18, the final hole of the course. It's a nice little finishing hole in my opinion for the course. Basically, you can kind of see between the stump and then this front tree right here, the basket. Basically, for the most part, it's going to be a forehand in my opinion. That seems like the easiest play for it. There is also people who do backhand and go around this tree and then between the stump and kind of just let it coast back in. There is also a couple other positions. There's one that's a little bit closer to that second tree that's right there. There's also a farther position that's like a little tree by the sidewalk slash bike trail that runs through the park right here. And there's a basket placement. Right now, I think it's just a practice basket in that position right now, but it'll end up over there sometimes. Also, that light color stump that's way out there, there's also a pin position for that as well. But right now, it's kind of just in the more middle par 3 spot. So, yeah, I'm just gonna take my light slingshot and just kind of throw it up on there. Threw it a little too low, but should be a long birdie putt or just an easy 3. So it's kind of in like a little bowl area, so it kind of filters relatively fine. Also, the grass is a little bit long. They haven't quite mowed it yet, so it'll catch just fine. Hopefully I can close out with a birdie. I ended up a little bit closer than I thought, but I'm going to give it a little bit of a run, and then I'll just tap out. That's a no man's land there. Alright, let's save the 3. Aimed a little low on that one, but I'll take the bogey. So on my last few putts, kind of funny, the kind of like a hello jingle thing going on in the background of the last couple putts on 18. There's an ice cream truck that rolled up, and I set up this so I could kind of just say my closing statements, but it's kind of funny because every time we start to record, play the jingle, so we just switch it to. But I mean, he's gotta make money somehow, I guess. And there's a playground right there, so there's only like 3 kids at it, so I don't know, he wasn't really gonna get too much out of it. But anyway, to my closing statements. Seymour Smith is, like I said, it's the first part I played, first course. And also I got my first ace on hole 8 in the short position. Not there that's currently in. But basically, I was kind of happy with what I got. I ended up with 2 under and a couple bogeys. Had some good birdies in there and stuff like that. It's kind of a busy park. There's a lot of people that play it. I'm kind of surprised that there wasn't more people playing today. Probably just because of tournaments and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's a good park course to go and play and stuff like that. A good course to get a good tune in. Nothing crazy. Like I said, the shorts, there's longs. Sometimes it can be birdie or die. Sometimes it can just be, you're playing with the wind out there, like today. hopefully it's going to